Welcome to today's celebration of life. I am Wade Marble, and I'll be the facilitator today. Our musician is Ray Rayfield. And our first song is Now We Sing of the Brave of Old, found in the Pink Book on page 42. Page 42. Please rise, and if you are willing and able.
I'll sing a little bit of this to you so that you can maybe just the first line. It's going to start. It's going to be like, now, it's a waltz, by the way. Now sing we of that way. And I'll count it off. 1, 2, 1. Now sing we of the brave of old, who would not sell themselves for gold, yet left us richest men have told. These we honor of men and women, though obscure, whose faith was great, whose lives were pure, who scorned the world's resplendent lure. These we cherish, who with no gleam point the way, pressed ever on by night and day, and spite of pain did ever stay. Keep on building, who long the world's dark sorrow bore, who toiled and loved and suffered sore, who being dead live evermore. These we honor. Yeah, nice job.
Thank you, Craig. Welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a spiritual community, philosophically based on existentialist and feminist principles. We are dedicated to human liberation and protection of the natural world. We make our spiritual home in the old stone church, which was hand-built more than 100 years ago by the African-American Antioch East Baptist Church. We acknowledge that racial hostility drove those African-Americans from the area, and we honor them and the powerful history of this place. We also acknowledge that in the 1800s, the Muskogee Creek people were driven from this land, and we support justice for all indigenous people. Excuse me. A couple of opening thoughts for today. To understand and reconnect with our stories, the stories of our ancestors, is to build our identities. That's by Irish novelist and journalist Frank Delaney. To us, The ashes of our ancestors are sacred, and their resting place is hallowed ground. That's Chief Seattle, the Suquamish and Duwamish leader in the 1800s. And finally, as surely as light comes from the dawn and beauty comes from the butterfly, we come from our ancestors. Those were my thoughts after watching a Day of the Dead parade in Mexico City with about 500,000 people lined up for 7 miles along a beautiful palm-lined boulevard. Are there any newcomers with us here today? And if so, would you like to stand and introduce yourselves? Tell us how you came to visit us.
Might just be me. I'm a babe. It's nice to meet you all. I was looking for a congregation close to me, and I didn't realize this existed, and so I'm checking it out.
Well, welcome.
And I'm Andrea Loxley. This is actually my second time, but I was late last time, so I couldn't introduce myself. But yeah, I was a philosophy major as an undergrad, and so I just had to check out Existentialist Church. And plus, I'm into tango, and so I hear about it because I know there's events here sometimes. So.
Thanks for coming. Welcome. And I'd like to point out that in your program, there is a connection card here at the back flap. And if you were interested in becoming to hear more about us or tell us about you, you might fill that out and leave it at the back table. And could also, you could receive the weekly e-blast, which is produced by Sarah Beard. Thanks again for coming. If anyone has community announcements that they would like to share, would you please bring them up? There's some paper up there in the back with a pencil, a pen, and I will read those later in the service. Community announcements. Do we have anyone here today celebrating a birthday this week or last, or anniversary, or other milestones? Yes.
I have an anniversary this week, on the 29th. I think I was married 30 years.
I couldn't hear.
I have a wedding anniversary on January 29th of 30 years. Not broken.
Yes, come on out. And what is it?
That's Susan.
Yeah, there you go.
Susan.
Susan. Happy birthday to Susan.
Anniversary. I'll tell you, Susan got married 30 years ago to a really nice guy. What's his name? John. And so you've been together this whole time?
Yeah.
You look really good.
2 years before that.
No. Okay. 30. And I'm here because my older girl is 21 on the 27th.
What's your name?
Oh. My name's Kristen and her name's Ava.
Okay. Happy birthday to Susan.
That's
What is her name?
Anniversary.
Anniversary.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
That was mine.
I'm getting new hearing aids next month.
So, yes, here we go. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary, dear Susan. Happy anniversary to you.
Happy birthday to my daughter Ava.
Ava, okay.
21st.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to my daughter Ava. Happy birthday to you.
All right, our next song is one of my favorites. I am the very motto of a modern existentialist found in the White Book. Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
You gotta laugh to keep from crying. At this time, we invite our fellowship minister, Reverend Marcia Mitzer, to come forward and share her thoughts for the day.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. You're looking mighty fine. It's a beautiful day outside. It's so nice to feel the sun, and it's a little bit warmer. I love that. Somebody was saying that days like this remind them that the days are getting longer. So that means that spring is around the corner. I wouldn't be putting up any of my woolies, but it's nice to have that, that thought, something to really look forward to. I wanted to say this morning how much I really admire and appreciate Bishop Mary Ann Budd.
Oh, yeah.
She is the perfect example to me of speaking truth to power. The fact that she did what she did in the context in which she did it, but that she did it with such a gentle spirit. It reminds me about the calling in idea of calling in people who are who don't agree with our particular way of thinking, but instead of being antagonistic, we openly want to call them in and to give them an opportunity to hear and to feel something that we feel is very important. I think it took great courage for her to do that, and of course, she's getting a lot of hate mail, death threats, things like that, which I think she anticipated. So it really is courage, and I would like for us to just think about the fact that every day there may be opportunities for us to just say something. If somebody tells a joke about an ethnic group, to say, I don't like that. I don't think that's appropriate. Or whatever it might be. If you hear somebody call somebody a name, a slander, that racial slander or something, then don't just stand there and feel bad about it, but in a gentle way, just say, I don't agree with that. I don't like that kind of a joke. I don't feel like that's the way that we need to be. However you want to phrase things, but to just stand up. I mean, she really made me think about how important it is, to be aware of the little things that go on every day, because we don't have a pulpit to stand in and to share, but we have our own pulpit in the sense that we can stand up in little ways at any opportunity that we have. So I hope that you all have a wonderful week, and that when you have an opportunity, you'll think of that. But I just hope that your week is filled with a lot of joy and sunshine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Very well said.
Yeah.
We have one community announcement. Anyone who might be interested in learning our audio system from Andy,
Yes. Go Andy. Very good idea.
please contact Nancy White. I would never confront Nancy White. Silence is the sleep that nourishes wisdom. English philosopher and statesman Francis Bacon. This is a time we set aside for about 5 minutes of silence. If you have any reason to do so, we have candles on either side of the sanctuary. So you could light the candle, and then we will meditate or contemplate for the next 5 minutes.
One right on the money. And our own Mary Howard put this together and wrote the second and third verses too.
Wow.
And if you don't mind me saying, you just told me, or Mary just told me that the first verse is on tombstones, Irish tombstones, in her own family, apparently.
It says verse 1, medieval European American. It's right on the page. Verse 1 is medieval European epitaph. It was
Yes.
on one of my ancestors from, I think the 17th century.
Awesome. And I'll give you a little bit of this too. I always like to do that before something. It'll be, let's see. Remember, friend, as you pass by, as you are now. It'll be like that. So we'll start again. Okay? 2, 3. Remember, friend, as you pass by, as you are now, so once was I, as I am now, so you must be. Prepare for death and follow me. So love your friends and others too. They struggle on a lot like you. Respect their creeds, their sex and race. Make Mother Earth a better place. Honor the story and the song
Thank you, Mary.
Yes, thank you, Mary. And great. Now is the time for anybody to share your...
Okay, so I wrote 2 songs last week, which is, I think this is really amazing to me. And this is one of them. I heard President Biden in his farewell remarks mentioned that the USA had become an oligarchy. And Jimmy Carter's been saying that for years. And oligarchy, you know, the word just, what came to my mind was this song, and you may have sung it at summer camp like I did over and over again, you know, about Noah, you know, building the arky, you know, out of hickory barky, and all that. So I like to write parodies and play with words, so this is my, this is what I came up with. And I follow the rhyme schemes very closely, including, this is actually called the Rise and Shine song. It was copyrighted in 1908. So instead of Rise and Shine, I start out with unwise, not fine. You know? And also, instead of, you know, children of the Lord, and I'm always going to rhyme with Lord. Unwise, here we go. Unwise, not fine, inflammatory, bad guys consign us to a gory story, plunder, 'cause they're predatory, predisposed to hoard. Tyrant, he built him a hierarchy, and then he built him a patriarchy, squeezed them into an oligarchy ruled by a warlord. He said, and I quote, beware of fake newsy, grab you a scapegoat, and don't be too choosy, spray him with your Uzi, it's a doozy, chaos and discord. Soldier, he wielded the routine to study, war more, he shielded the thrust of the bloody blows of foes down by the riverside so muddy, swung his mighty sword. Well, so far it's been a grim song, huh? But here it turns around. Always have to turn it around. So far the meanies seem to be winning, but now the genies conjure a spinning on an upward. Beetles are grinning, freedom our reward. And this, if you know Yellow Submarine, this is, we are resistful, push come to shovey, against a fistful of dreadful glovey, blessed with blissful peace and lovey, pepper, land restored. And I forgot the title. An evil flood, an ark to the rescue.
Say it again.
What's that?
The title, say it again.
An evil flood, an ark to the rescue. Because the song is about building the ark.
Thank you, Craig. A world premiere.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll get sung again.
Our speaker today is Reverend Bec Cranford, and her topic is honoring our ancestors and integrative approach. Bec is a self-identified Bapticostal-misfit from Atlanta, Georgia, floating in the mystical world of ecumenism and interfaith conversations. She cares deeply about those that society has rejected and those that religiosity and systems of power continue to alienate. This lifelong commitment includes work in family literacy, rural transportation for the poor, homeless service, interfaith justice work, and much more. She speaks at conferences, colleges, and universities, and she has founded and pastored the Church of the Misfits, an LGBTQ affirming church in West Georgia. Please welcome Bec Cranford.
Guys, and ladies, and lady guys, and guy ladies, and all us peoples. It's so good to be back with you all. It's been a while, and I'm super grateful to be here. Before I dive into the talk today, I wanted to pivot. Originally, when Stell contacted me, I made this meme about hope in exile, and I put it out in Facebookistan, as that's what I was going to talk about today. But I forgot that because, lo and behold, I live in a world of total chaos all the time, and ADHD spin out, right, when you're neurodivergent. But anyways, here I am to rhythm with my tism. So, including my tism, I then pivoted and I said, well, let's talk about our ancestors. But as Facebook reminded me, I originally was going to talk about hope in exile. And I saw that and I was like, let's talk about both. So I wanted to talk about hope in exile and then talk about our ancestors. So I will make it brief because if you're anything like my ADHD self, you have a limited span of attention that might last 6 minutes. Unless something pretty dangles over there and then we'll all go, ooh. But having said that, I wanted to share from the Nehuim, the Hebrew prophets, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah was in the southern kingdom. There were 2 kingdoms in this kind of mid-exilic period. And he was warning those that were in the system of oppression not to oppress others. See, the people had forgotten about caring for those that were on the margins. They had forgotten about the sojourner. They had forgotten about refugees. They had forgotten about the orphan, the widow, and the poor. And they were really caught up in consumerism and materialism, in military might. They had, in fact, really given in to this sort of idolatry of worshiping power in bombs and guns and tanks, though bombs and guns didn't exist back then, but you get where I'm going. So that was kind of the context of what was happening. Now, prophets don't come from inside the religious system. They are people who are in the wilderness. And we can think of wilderness within mythology as a place of the wild. So these are often neurodivergent, gifted people who are having mystical experiences within nature outside of institutionalized religion. And yet, the prophetic message always comes back to that of doing justice, going out and acting with mercy and kindness towards humanity, and having humility in that. And that's the words of the prophets. All of the prophets offer a call to the people to come back, to be reconciled, and to work towards justice. Except for Jonah. Jonah was pissed. But that's another story for another day. Jonah was just mad all the time, just having a fit. But Jeremiah talks to the people about exile, and then the people end up going into exile under Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar rose up as a great military leader and conquered much of the Levant. And Nebuchadnezzar came with this ego that was huge. It was a huge ego, and he wanted to make the Levant great again. He saw Babylon as a place that would bring economic prosperity. He wanted to take land there and take land over here and open up the trade routes with his great military and economic premises. Nebuchadnezzar was such an amazing, huge guy with his huge ego that he had statues erected and gardens distributed within Babylon. And as his armies would go forth and conquer and assimilate people, they would say, "Come to Babylon, enjoy our great economy, and work for the good of the land." And those were the thoughts that Nebuchadnezzar's army and regime put out. And that was the propaganda. But the reality is that there was some crushing of those that resisted empire. And there were those that fell under the trampling foot of the army. Nebuchadnezzar was so sure of himself that he built this gate to Ishtar that still stands. It actually, you can see it in the Berlin Museum, which is a whole other thing if we want to talk about colonialism and weird museums taking stuff out of land, right? But anyways, another story for another day. But the gates of Ishtar are beautiful. They're blue, they're full of tile, and you will see these Persian lions that are marching, as well as Persian dragons. And it was a sign of Nebuchadnezzar's prowess and his greatness. And though the gate was supposedly erected to Ishtar, it actually has all of his names on it. And it says Nebuchadnezzar the Great, the Lion, the Dragon. Like, this guy was full of himself, right? Like, just complete narcissist. Definitely some childhood trauma. As a matter of fact, if we look into his family, like, he tried to overthrow his brother. He was upset with his dad, who apparently was a tyrant and really abusive. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on. But we see how this beast was created. The children of Judah and the southern kingdom, when they were oppressed, they were brought forth. And there was a psalm that was supposedly written by the prophet Jeremiah. It is a psalm that is never found in any mainline lectionaries. It's Psalm 137, and you probably have heard it before and said, "Oh my God," because it talks about dashing the heads of children. So, no, it definitely would not be in a lectionary. No, that's not in the Bible. Oh. But it is in the Bible, and it's there. And it's this angry psalm. It's an imprecatory psalm, a psalm of cursing, a psalm of lament. And there are psalms of cursing, just in case any of you want to talk to your Baptist relatives later today and be like, "I learned some psalms of cursing." See how that goes over with them. But in the Bible, Psalm 137 is this psalm of cursing. And it says, "As we sat down by the river Jordan, and we remembered Zion." And the people are defeated, sitting in Babylon, under an oppressive regime, remembering what it was like. And then the sentiment rises that they would like to take the children of their oppressor and throw them against the rocks. And all of us who are in here who are loving and who are kind and who are woke as stuff might be like, "Oh, that's horrible. I would never dash the heads of my enemies' babies against the rocks." This is metaphor. This is language. It's like during 2020 in the protest, and you see young men grabbing bricks and throwing them into buildings. Sometimes in our rage and in our lament and in our pain with oppression, we too want to grab a brick and throw it into a building. Because some of you and us in this room have experienced discrimination based on gender or race or some sort of perceived something, some systematic oppression. Be it if you were were a queer child growing up in the 60s and 70s. Be it if you were a black child growing up today. Be it if you're Asian going to a mostly white school and them assuming, based on your skin color, that you must be a terrorist and saying these kind of horrible Islamophobic things about you, even though you yourself are not a Muslim. But they just assume anyone who's brown must be a Muslim. So we too can understand where this rage and vitriol comes from. It's an imprecatory psalm, a psalm of cursing. And Jeremiah writes this lament. And in chapter 9, Jeremiah says, call out the weeping women. Call out the women to lament. Because in Western America, we don't do grief very well. But in the ancient Levant, the Semitic people knew that grief could be an embodied process, where women would go out and lean forward and hold on to their bellies and go, "Ho! Ho!" And in expressing the deep grief from their abdomen, would allow the other people to begin to grieve and to let go of that pain. So Jeremiah says, call out the weeping women. We have been exiled into a land of Nebuchadnezzar, who promises economic prosperity and in the wake oppresses people and leaves blood and tears and heartbreak. There must be time for grief. As they sit this process of Shiva, and they gather for 7 days, and they moan and they groan, it then comes time to wash their face and return to work. And Jeremiah comes to the people and says, remember justice. Remember doing what's right. And then other prophets come that are sent from the southern kingdom, like Isaiah. Isaiah, who's this fun neurodivergent guy who likes to talk about really vulgar things, like doo-doo, right? And minstrel rags, and says really offensive stuff. And he says, you think you're so just, but you're not. You haven't cared about the sojourner, the widow, the one who is unhoused. I tell you to repent from your ways and to go and do justice with your fellow humankind. And then you will be restored. And one day we can walk together into the Olam Haba, or the world to come. The beloved community, the new earth, the better day. Don't give up hope. Even in the land of oppression, go and do good. You've heard from Jeremiah, you've heard people use that quote where it says, I know God has a purpose for me and it's for my good. And you've probably even seen that, like, this like kitsch designer stuff that people have, like from Hobby Lobby, that says, I know the purposes that are good. But the context of that is, I know the purposes that are good, despite oppression and living in a land of oppression, I'm going to continue to work for the good of the people. And that's what the prophet says. And the other prophets keep saying, remember to do good. Don't give in to lament. Don't give in to grief. Don't stay there. Wash your face and get up and go do the work. My charge to you at this point is to remember to take time to lament when you find yourself living in a world of Nebuchadnezzars. But to remember ultimately that justice The long arc of justice is bending, and it's coming. And I know it's taken forever, and you're going to say, how long, how long, how long? Look, folks, we might not see the most beautiful world before we pass on from this land. But every day we can focus on the glimpses of good. And just like the encounter that you had at the gas station earlier, we can remember that there are good people out in the world. So hold on to that. Okay, I want to pivot, but before I do, I want to flip the energy in the room. So what I'd like for you to do is to call up some energy from your legs and into your chest, and then we're going to talk about ancestors, and I will be done. Does that sound good? Yeah, okay, all right. So if you would, we're just going to call up some energy into us to get us moving and stirring, all right? Because remember, the charge is to go forth and to do justice in the land. So that's the charge from that section of my talk, and then we're going to pivot into talking about ancestors. But before we do, what I want you to do is I want you to just gently tap on your thighs. Okay? Now look at me and say, I am powerful. I am powerful. Yes, you are. Say, I am powerful. I am powerful. Yes, you are. Now come up to your belly. I am powerful. I am powerful. Yes, you are. Now to your chest. I am powerful. I am powerful. Yes, you are. One more time. I am powerful. I am powerful. Yes, you are. Okay. We can now pivot. You guys obviously have felt an energy shift now. So we can now pivot to recall how powerful we are. Flowing through us are thousands upon thousands of ancestors. We may not be in contact with those ancestors because of adoption or family secrets or what have you, but we can begin to sort of peel back some layers of our ancestors. And I want to talk about venerating and honoring our ancestors from an integrated approach. For those of you who grew up in a closed system of religion, perhaps a fundamentalist Christian approach, you probably heard that honoring your ancestors was somehow idolatry. Did anybody hear that? No, a couple of you. But it's actually not. So if you look within ancient Christianity, and there's various sects, whether it's the African sect, the oldest sect of Christianity, which is deeply African and Ethiopian, or if you look at the ancient practice of Indian Christianity, not Indian from America, native indigenous persons, but India from India. Or if you look at the ancient Didache, the Near Eastern Christians, they honored their ancestors. Within their understanding of Eucharist or communion, the living and the dead were present. Everybody was there. And if we look at the world's spiritualities and religions, many of them continue to honor and venerate our ancestors. Within the Christian liturgical calendar is built in a day of honoring those that have gone on, called All Saints. And it flows through many other traditions as well. I grew up in West Georgia, and some of you know this, and I'm 8 generations from West Georgia, and I always just thought I was white, like whiteness. Right? That's what I had known, that's what I thought. But as I began to dig into my ancestry, I found out that I had African ancestors from Benin and Togo, where the Western slave trade from Dutch Indies took place. I then found out that my Appalachian ancestors were Melungeon. And Melungeon is a triracial people group from eastern Tennessee. I also found out about my Scotch ancestors, my Irish ancestors. I found out about all these different people. Some of them doing great things, some of them doing some notorious stuff. It was the good, the bad, and the complicated. But even as a young child, I always felt surrounded by many different sorts of supporters and care. I suppose in my young child's worldview, I assumed these were spiritual forces such as angels. But as I've integrated my spirituality, I begin to consider my great cloud of witnesses as ancestors, and that my good and caring ancestors have been with me. There are people that we have lost and that we have grieved and that we miss so much. And I feel that they are giving us glimpses from wherever we go next, whatever happens, whatever realm, whatever dimension, whatever paradigm. And they are kind of giving us glimmers. Whether it's a red cardinal that you see on a winter day that connects you to the presence and feeling of your grandmother. Whether it's a strange smell of cigarettes or roses that comes out of nowhere. Or whether it's the sense of love and comfort that reminds you of a place that you once called home. I believe that your ancestors are showing up with you and around you in your everyday pursuits. I think that we are the manifestation of the positive energy, prayers, woo-woo, and juju that our ancestors put out. We are their hope. And we are living in a time where we can make such a difference, not only in our historical bloodline as it goes back up, but also in our descendants. And even if we do not have any physical children, we can have many people that we care for and nurture. And I believe now is a really great time to return to elder concepts and ancient concepts and to integrate your spirituality. Because, see, you don't have to be a Christian or a Jew or a Buddhist. You can be a Buju Christ follower if you want to. You can be a Druid shaman who likes the radical rabbi. You don't have to stick with a label. Labels are for pickle jars and beer. We can integrate our spirituality and venerate our ancestors. I'd like to offer a simple meditation before I stop. If you are willing, please journey with me. If you feel safe, know that you are valued. Know that I send respect and protection from the deepest place in my heart. I would like for you to close your eyes and gently allow your hands to go to a place that is comfortable on your body. And as you slow your breathing and sit on these delightful cushions, know that you are being held by all the generations who came before you. I would like for you to imagine in your mind's eye a place of natural beauty. Imagine in this space that you are fully known and fully loved. Every every ounce of compassion that you have ever given comes back to you 100-fold in this place. I'd like for you to lift your eyes in this meditation to the place of the horizon. And I want you to see an ancestor coming towards you. They begin to run to greet you and embrace you. Imagine their clothing and their face and the way that their hands look. Imagine them embracing you and pulling you into their chest. As they hold you in this moment, they tandemly reach from a pouch or satchel or bag that they are carrying. And they bring a gift out to you to hold and to carry and to be yours. In this moment, with this exchange, allow your ancestor to look into your eyes. Open your ears as your ancestor speaks to you in a language that you understand with your mind. You are so loved. You are so valued. You are our hope. You embrace again. And you tell that ancestor, so long for now, knowing that at any time you can close your eyes, come back to this place, and say hello again. And I want you just to gently begin tapping on your body. And when you are ready, take a deep breath and open your eyes. The gifts that your ancestors have to give you are many. Unfortunately, scientific DNA will only take you back to about 1650. But if you want to get back to 1650 and give your DNA to some corporation, ooh, spooky. But if you want to do that, then you'll know a little bit of some of your DNA. But let me warn you that scientifically DNA falls off, as your parents only gave you half of each of their DNA. So you're missing another component. And as you go up a generation, you've lost some. And another generation, you've lost some. Fourth generation, the majority of you had 64 third great-grandparents. 64. You could have had a slave-owning ancestor and a slave ancestor. You could have had a general and a military ancestor, and a nurse who cared for those who were injured in a war. The possibilities are ad infinitum. There is good and bad. But don't hold on to the negative within your family. Know that there's also a great positive force that's moving through you. And if you're alive today on the planet, some of your ancestors had to go through hell to get you to this place. So welcome. You guys are effing awesome. You made it this far. Now let's turn the world upside down for good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Our closing song is Jacob's Ladder, Sarah's Circle. And it's found in the White Book in alphabetical order.